Real easy. My mom gave me my sense of humor. She taught me at a real young age that since God's in control of everything, don't take yourself so seriously. Don't take any circumstance so seriously because He's got it under control. So she's taught me to be able to laugh at myself and usually find the humor in almost any circumstance.
I think the trait that my mom possessed that I would most like to have carried on in my own life is the fact that she never met anybody who needed help that she wouldn't help. She was always a servant to everyone she met, and I just love her for it. She's still with us today. Love you, Mom, and I hope that I can just be a model of that myself. Thanks.
My mom was quite a bit younger than my father, but she passed away, went to be with the Lord sooner than he did. And so I miss her a lot, and she was a very, very dear lady. And what I remember most about my mom was that she loved Jesus, and that was very obvious when you ran into her or met her for the first time, because she was always talking about Jesus, always bringing Him into every conversation. She would pray with strangers very easily at any time, in any situation. And in our home, she was forever singing about Jesus. And I loved that. And I do miss her. She was a dear, precious, precious woman.
Well, my mom was always such a positive woman. She always said, boy, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And she was a woman of great faith. She tried real hard to install that faith in we 4 kids. Matter of fact, she said any parent's duty is to give their children roots and wings. She's in heaven now, but I know she can hear me when I say, thanks, Mom.
I'm Lynn Ford. When my parents were married, and they still are, even though my mom's in heaven, they experienced life with very little and with a lot and with everything in between. But the one thing about my mom is that it didn't matter how much she had, she lived life with open hands. That's one of the things I admire most about her, that she was never grasping in her life, that she had things, she appreciated her things, but she didn't love her things. She loved her family, and she was so gracious and willing to share whatever she had. Never thought about, here are the parameters for me loaning this to you. It was just always yes. And that was one of the ways that I knew growing up that I was deeply loved, deeply loved. This is the face of a child that is deeply loved. Look at that. That's me from my mom, 1962. Such freedom. There wasn't a care in the world. You can tell it in my face. There's something about being so unconditionally loved by your parents that sets you free to be yourself. So that's a child deeply loved who grew up into a woman who's deeply loved by her mom. And I hope that someday my son will be able to say the same thing about me, that I lived life with open hands, that I loved him freely, and that he knew it in the deepest part of his heart, so that no matter what's going on in his life, he could say, my mother deeply loved me.
Well, I was actually born on Mother's Day, so I started the whole process by not giving my mother her own holiday, which I thought was probably not very nice of me, but that's okay. And for those of you who might not know, I was a big surprise. My parents were already the parents of 2 teenagers when I showed up, and so they didn't know that they were going to start all over again in their mid-40s. And my mom, even though she was done and looking forward to the next stage of life, she did such a great job of making me feel like I was special, and that she was just glad I was there. And I remember when I was little, we lived out in the country and we didn't have TV, and I didn't have neighbor kids to play with for a long time, and she would play paper dolls with me and board games, and she taught me to read when I was like 3 or 4. She got out all the little readers and taught me to do that, and she taught me from a very early age things like how to handle money, and I would watch her do her devotions every morning, and from that I learned just, the importance of just sitting there and having your quiet time, even before it was something that I did. It's something that I remember she did, and she has such a beautiful gift of hospitality, and I've learned to love that from her, and so I'm really grateful for those things that she instilled in me. And even though I think I wore her out, because back then I had a lot of energy. Not sure I do now, but back then I did. She was just so good, and she She was a great mom. She is a great mom, and I love it whenever she calls in on mid-morning to chat with us, because she's always got something funny to say. So I just appreciate her so much, and know that was a time she was looking forward to resting, but I'm glad that she invested instead of rested. I'll say it that way. So that's my mom.
Hi, I'm Ken Church. Mom has been such a blessing to me over the years, and when I was younger, we would go to church together. Dad wasn't really there when it came to church, but Mom was. So I learned a lot from my mom when it came to things of the church. But there was one situation that really touches my heart even to this day when I think about it. They were up visiting. They lived down in Terre Haute. They came up to Fort Wayne to visit. And I came out in the kitchen one morning, and Mom kind of looked at me and she started to cry. I said, "Mom, what's the matter?" And she said, "You remind me so much of her dad or my grandpa." And that just touched my heart so much, to think that I remind her of her father. But, you know, Mom has been so tender and so loving, and I love her so dearly. So Mom, thank you for who you are, for everything that you've taught me over the years, and I love you so very much.
My mom always wanted a little girl. In fact, the name was picked out, Leslie Ann. Unfortunately, she only had 2 boys. Neither one of us named Leslie Ann. So, one of my favorite memories of my mom, she's got a beautiful smile. When she was young, she looked like a movie star. And when my first child was born, Brittany, who was also the first grandchild, and a girl, when Mom first saw her and held her, the smile on her face, I'll never forget. And not just because she was a girl, but because she was the first grandchild. But I'll never forget that look on her face. Or my mother-in-law, for that matter, had that same kind of smile. And I remember thinking to myself, I've finally done something right. It's a great memory.
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's it. Well, we talked about what you were going to do with your mom, Jim, over here.
Oh, you asked her. I didn't say how I want that to carry on in my life, but you know, so I had to that.
What do you ask?
I hate that.
You hate what?
I thought it was really good.
Well, you said you would want to know how we would want to carry it on. I didn't mention it.
No, that's
that
okay.
way, but,
Yeah, that's all right. We were just
so
messing now, so.
Yeah.
Am I talking into it or to you?
To it.
To it.
Yes, go right ahead.
Mom gave me my sense of humor.
Okay, hang on. I'm like shaking.
Mom. My mom has given me my sense of humor. Let's start over. Okay. It's real easy. My mom gave me my sense of humor. She basically taught me early age. Start over. Well,
She's taught you to what?
Ross, you can't talk right. All right.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ken Church. My mom has really been a real blessing to me, and just wanted to share just an instance that sure we do. Hi, I'm Ken.
Oh wait! I hadn't pushed the button yet.
Hi, I'm Ken Church. You know what I think of my mom? I think of an instance where they were up visiting. I came out one morning into the kitchen. My mom was there in the kitchen, and she looked at me. She started crying. And I said, "Mom, what's the matter?" And evidently, I have some of my traits that my grandpa, my mom's father, has. Whether I hold my arms or just certain mannerisms that...
Mannerisms.
Sure.
Yes, go for it. Don't make me edit crap out.
It'll make you work today so you're not in here. I'm a...
Wait a minute. Wait, I have to tell you.